be able to hear me.
No, we can hear you, just can't see you, which is okay. There he is.
There he is.
You've been elevated. Okay, so John Dory is still trying to get access, Smiley?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Okay. Let's give him a few minutes as a courtesy, because this is new stuff here.
I know he knows how to do it. He's done his friends' board meetings very well, so we'll get yours eventually.
Well, for all the new people, if my background is distracting or lulling you into a sense of complacency, I can switch back to something normal. Just let me know.
It's a nice compliment to your radio host voice. So we're good.
I just feel like when we're not speaking, we should have some Bob Marley playing or something.
Beauty of being at home. You can do it.
There you go.
Just say, Alexa, play Bob Marley. But don't say it too loud because my Alexa will hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
Miley, do you want me to text John, or is he still working on it?
Tara should be on the line with him. I'm going to give him a call too.
Okay. All right.
This is Tara's right now.
Thanks, babe.
So for Don, Steve, and Sean, we're waiting for one more commissioner to join. For those of you on YouTube, we're waiting for one more commissioner to join the meeting, and then we'll begin.
Samantha, has council been doing everything still virtually, or have they done anything in person?
Yeah, they're doing the same format you're seeing and you're
Got it.
experiencing tonight. We're working on getting them back to the community center as a bigger space. The council chambers just could not allow for enough social distancing, so that was it's still kind of out of the question at this point. So they're working on a transition to the community center, but that building is just really old, so it's a lot of network upgrading, and there's other IT stuff to get better. Just a couple of hurdles to get
Okay, well, let's see. John joins us. August 11th, 2020. We begin, as we always do, with a Pledge of Allegiance. For those of you that do not have one handy, you'll see in the upper left corner that there is an American flag available to you, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led this evening by John Bandrick. John, if you will.
Yep. Please stand. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much, Miley. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ayer, Commissioner Dory, Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Wolfart, Commissioner Wolfart,
Bernie, are you there?
Bernie is here.
Here.
We just don't have sound.
Hey, you got sound now or no?
Yes.
yes, I can hear you.
In here.
Chair Pro Tem Bandrick,
Here.
Chair Striger.
Here. Okay, item number 1 on the agenda is special presentations. I'm not aware of any. Samantha, do we have any?
We do not tonight.
Okay, item 2 on the agenda, approval of the minutes from February 11th, 2020. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review those minutes. The floor is open for any motions to approve or modify as needed.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, is there a second on that motion? Okay, I will second the motion. Let me see, do we have abstentions on this one?
Abstention.
Okay. Just the one abstention? Charlie? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bernie, is that, we're having trouble with your sound, but that's an aye. Okay.
That's an aye.
3 and 1 abstention, so that matter passes. Okay, moving on. Hey, John
Hey,
Dory,
there's
how are you?
John.
Hey, John.
Too old for this.
That's all right. John, we just approved the minutes of February 11, 2020. Do you have any thing you need added to those minutes?
No, I approve them.
Okay, excellent. All right, so that matter then passes 4 with 1 abstention. Item 3 on the agenda, current community activities and events. We have our activity update, which is a receive and review and file matter only, unless you have specific questions of Samantha. Does anybody have any questions of Samantha with regard to the Recreation Division activity updates? Okay, Samantha, do you not see any questions for you?
Item 3A.
I'm sorry?
Chair Striger, we do have a comment for item 3A.
We do. Okay. Is that a public comment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you need to read that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening. I would like to comment, possibly have the opportunity to present information in the next meeting and have the Beaches Parks and Recreation Commission reconsider their evaluation process on surf lessons / surf schools in San Clemente. See, I run a surf therapy that helps people that are in recovery and helps people struggling with other mental health issues, in addition to providing regular surf lessons. There are currently 2 surf schools in town that consistently get approved year after year, which keeps other small businesses and programs from being able to serve a wider population. Surf therapy can benefit a wide variety of age groups, and the local approved surf schools only seem to cater to kids in need of camp, in addition to providing some private lessons. I would like to request that the city consider opening up a specialized permit for surf therapy programs and also reconsider their current process with the approved surf schools, like maybe facilitating a more transparent and fair bidding process for the beach sites, rather than allowing 2 companies to monopolize a public resource, which prevents other companies from engaging in free enterprise. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Community mental health is an important subject, especially in times of COVID-19. James Schaffet.
Samantha, have you had any communications with this individual?
Yeah, so for some background, this individual, to my knowledge, actually submitted a request to become a contract instructor. We did not receive the application until July 31st. So we're doing our best to process. When we get a new instructor application, so you have some background, we accept them on an ongoing basis, but they're not reviewed immediately necessarily. So the deadline for winter review was August 1st, so he made the deadline for that. And staff are reviewing the application in this current week. I think they're going to look to get a response back. I can speak a little bit to our current process. We don't really have a specific opportunity for somebody to take a permit out to operate their business on the beach. As you all know, we have a precious amount of beach space. And we don't have anything in place right now that allows a commercial business to come forward and say, hey, I want to rent your beach and I'm going to charge a fee for it. That's just not our current practice. What we do allow is a contract instructor setup, and this is from beaches to parks to our facilities. This is our current process. And so that requires an application. Now, different from what a park site instructor might look like, or even somebody teaching at the community center, again, beach space is limited. So we're very cognizant of how often we permit user groups to go out to the beaches. And we do actually have 3 beach instructors. We run 3 camps. And yes, they are mostly geared towards youth. So this would be something different. And we don't really have a formal process for going out and seeking instructors. That's just not current practice. It's typically not practice in most towns or cities. So we will address it with the individual and absolutely see what we can do to support him in his efforts. We obviously acknowledge that mental health is important, and if there's some type of therapy involved, serving adults, that's very valuable. But we'll assess it as we always do with any of our classes.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so on to item 4 on the agenda, old business. We do not have any old business. Moving on to item 5 on the agenda is new business, and 5A is the proposal to select the consultant for assistant with the specific park master plans. I will note that we did get some emails from the public requesting specific things to happen in the parks. That, of course, is something for us to consider down the road. But Samantha, do you want to lead us off on this?
You bet. Thank you. So I do believe the contents of the report really summarizes where we're at with this. We went out to RFP, so a recap of the summary of the project that we're looking at. Our 2018 master plan said we need to do more master plans for sites individually. And so that's what we're looking at doing here. Council has authorized the budget and the funding for it to look at 5 specific park sites, and those are listed in the contents of the report. We went out to RFP. We got a number of proposals back, and we went through our regular interview process and got through all of that. And staff believes that SWA, and I have them on the line, is a great consulting firm to step into the shoes and really work with our community to move this project forward. Some of the highlights of SWA is that they are a local firm. They're based out of Laguna Beach. Some of their principal consultants they live in town around Dana Point. They're very local, and I think there's a huge benefit in that. And one of the things that stuck out is they take their kids to our parks, their families go to our parks, and that's really important. As you all know, the connectivity and that community in San Clemente is invaluable. And so when we went to select a consultant, that was a big priority. They've done work in the city of Mission Viejo and the city of Dana Point, again, some of their local projects that they've taken on. And we feel at the staff level that they're going to be great at executing this project. And I will say that in light of COVID, I wish that we were not kicking off a very public meeting heavy topic, because these are certainly going to require public meetings and town forums. We want to hear from people. And COVID will put a little bit of a damper on that in terms of being able to go out to a park site and do calling everybody to come to San Gorgonio. That's not going to be necessarily an option as we roll through this. But in my conversations with SWA, I think they're going to be really creative on how we source our information out and how we take information in, whether it's a heavier reliance on social media or going back and doing surveys. We know that the community reads their mail and they do submit their comments, whether that's electronically or by paper. And so they're eager to jump into that. Like I said, I'm happy to take any questions at this point. If not, I do have both of our SWAs on the phone to answer any other questions that might come up.
Okay, well, as a matter of housekeeping first, before we get to the questions, I know that Miley has some comments, emails. I have looked at them. I don't recall any of them having to do with the specific topic of retaining SWA. So I want to make clear with Samantha that the city has already selected SWA to be the consultant. Is that correct?
No, well, at the staff level, that's the staff recommendation before you tonight for your consideration. With the BPR Commission's approval and also recommendation to move SWA forward, we would take this to council and they would authorize the execution of a contract.
Okay.
So right now we're just looking for council approval or feedback. But to your point, yes, the comments that came in, well, we need them. We want to hear those. This is actually not the right opportunity to hear them. Those will come down the line. But again, we know our community's eager to put out what they feel is a priority, and we appreciate that. So those will be saved, obviously, and we've got their contact. That will be sent to SWA, hopefully, and they can take it from there.
Okay, so and the reason for my question was two-part. One was to absolve Miley of the burden of having to read those into the record today, because we're going to preserve those for when they're actually ripe on the topic. But second, that we didn't get the proposals from anybody else. We only got SWA. So in the past, we've been given proposals from a number of consultants, and we've vetted them ourselves. I gather that you prefer we just give a yay or nay on SWA as opposed to comparing them to somebody else. Does that make sense?
It does, and I can say that this SWA was also within budget. We had a couple of proposals that were out of the budget range, and so that we took that into consideration. If the council, if the commission would like to see those, we can certainly bring them all back. They are all about 95 to 100 pages long, so I'm happy to do that, though, if that's what the commission would like as well.
Why don't we go through some of the commissioner questions? I have some of my own. I'm happy to wait until the end, and then we'll see if people feel like we need to see more information. So on my screen, I'll just go in order because it might be a little bit easier. So Charlie, you're the first commissioner on my screen. Do you have any questions right now for Samantha or for the consultants themselves?
I think so. I was looking at page 54 in SWA's RFP. I was curious as we thought about. I'm sure some of our comparisons came down to price, obviously, as you mentioned, Samantha. But I was just curious whether or not the process of making a determination of how to pull together the sort of the initial report and the revised report and then ultimately the summary report. I'm wondering if the processes were essentially the same. And further to that question was it seems like there's a lot of workshop activity that's included in the RFP for SWA, and I'm just I wonder if there'd be an easier, less intensive way to do that, maybe via email or something along those lines. I mean, granted, I think with COVID, there's probably going to be some pretty rock solid virtual elements of it, but I guess really sorry, I'm throwing a lot at you, but the
That's
process, were the processes that essentially the same with multiple workshops? I just wonder if that turns into something that's a little difficult to sort of wrap everybody's heads around. I know that when we've got a lot of input on the commission, it's sort of hard to parse out what works, what doesn't, all that stuff, and it just is more of a. And I get listening, I get it, I understand that, but I'm just curious about those points. Sorry.
Sure. No, that makes sense, and I appreciate those questions. So, for some background, part of our RFP, we did have a bit of a stress on we want to see public engagement and public workshops. I think if there's one thing we gleaned from the 2018 master plan is that the public didn't necessarily feel that they were fully engaged and that they were reached out to enough. I think we all lived through that together. We experienced that. So at the staff level, we really took that to heart and heard that from the community, that the commission wants to be involved, that our stakeholders want to be involved beyond just a single meeting that happens in one room with one person. It needs to be really community-wide, because these 5 locations they're spread across the city, and so we really are in a unique position that we're impacting nearly every pocket of San Clemente. So the community workshop components were definitely part of our RFP process, and we did weigh that heavily. Now, to your point, Commissioner Smith, that COVID shines a completely different light on this. I do think that we will be backing away from in-person workshops. We have to, actually, to be honest with you. We cannot bring massive amounts of people together. Could we get away with potentially 10 people out in the park? Probably, but we don't want to condone any mass gathering like we would potentially see, at Sandra Gordon. You could get hundreds of people because that's a community park. So we will be dialing that back. I can't speak directly to how that may or may not impact SWA's fees, but and again, I have them on the line, and they can probably talk better to their methodology and their execution of what that would look like. But I do think these public workshops, whether they are on the internet, they're virtual, or they're smaller, kind of caught in the act information gathering, they are going to be really important. And as much as we get emails, that face-to-face contact or even a phone call is really helpful. We found that. So that was kind of the background behind that. Now, obviously, if we feel like we've gained a lot of knowledge from 1 or 2 workshops, I think we would look to say, hey, I don't think we need to do more fact-finding. We have a lot of data. Our first public outreach was phenomenal. We don't need to keep beating the drum on this. So there is some flexibility in that, absolutely. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Just one other follow-up question. Well, let me ask this question then. So, I guess it's 2 questions for SWA. One is this process similar to the processes that have been used for other site-specific consulting projects? And then I guess the second question would be, does the proposed budget allow for us to get to a point where we'll have something in hand that is pretty detailed? I know that with past consulting projects that we've had at the commission, I felt like it was a little bit of almost like a 2-step, if you will. Here's what we'll offer you for step 1. And step 1 didn't quite get us there, and so we had to go to step 2. And so I'm just trying to get a sense if this is their expectation for the totality of the cost.
So I'm going to lean to Sean or Steve. They're both on the line, and they can introduce themselves and answer that better. Yes, this is very normal, and kind of an abridged version to your answer. This is a pretty normal process, but I will turn that to Steve or Sean, whoever wants to take that.
Yeah, this is Steve at SWA, Steve Risen. Nice to meet all of you. I'm not sure, can you guys see me or just hear me?
Just hear you.
Okay. So to answer your first question, yes, this is a fairly typical process for public projects. One thing that I'd like to point out is in order to balance the need for public meetings against the budget for the project, we are proposing combining all of the park's first and second community workshops into a single workshop. In other words, instead of having 5 separate workshops for phase 1 and then, or stage 1, and then 5 more for stage 2, we would have 2, and that helps keep this on budget. There are a lot of ways to look at doing this in the COVID world, via Zoom, via mailers, via internet. As you know, everything evolves, the process may change, depending on when we kick this off. Maybe we kick this off in, you know, 2-3 months, and you know, we've got a vaccine, and knock on wood, we're all ready to come out. That changes things, but I don't see it changing the price drastically of what you see here. To answer your second question, the proposal is for the final product of the proposal is a conceptual design for each one of the 5 parks. So this would be a plan that indicates the general use of the park, the general look of the park, the materials that we would use in the park. To go to the next level, that would be a construction documentation package, and that would be under a separate proposal.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, next on my screen is Bernie. Do you have any questions for Samantha or SWA? No sound, Bernie.
How about now?
It's working now.
Perfect. So SWA, I'd love to hear your response. I'm just kidding. You couldn't hear me when I was talking, could you? All right. Most of my questions were already resolved. I just assumed that you had already been chosen because this was the only RFP we got. I looked through it. I like it. When we went through our, I guess, the prior step to this, to getting to here, I think Sam mentioned people were feeling like they were left out of this process. And especially in this post-COVID, I like the idea of using technology, but I know that technology is not widely available to all areas of our community, so it'd be important to know that we would find appropriate ways to communicate. And since this is affecting parks across the city, I am not sure that putting kind of phase 1 into just 2 kind of meetings for all of the parks, I'm not sure I understand how that would work well and serve each of those little kind of sub-communities that those parks live in. So if you can talk to how you think that might work, I'd love it. And then the last thought was, this proposal, I'm assuming, was dreamt up and completed prior to the world that we're currently living in. And I'm just wondering if that anything other than the community engagement changes as a result of where we are now, and knowing that no one can predict where we'll be tomorrow. Those are my thoughts and questions.
Okay, those are to Steve or Sean, I take it.
There, yes, to SWA.
Okay. Gentlemen?
All right. So to answer your second question, the proposal was done pre-COVID. You know, at this point, I don't think, other than the public outreach, I don't see COVID affecting any of the other parts of the project. Perhaps final presentations to the different committees. To answer your first part of your question, the way I see 5 parks kind of happening simultaneously pre-COVID was a workshop in one of the parks where we had information boards on all of the parks, and we kind of piggybacked each park one after another. So it's all done at one day, but Linda Lane Park might be first, and then the Trestles Park second, and so on and so forth. We probably have to think about how we do that with the technology available to us, mailers. You know, if we're dealing with mail or internet questionnaires, I think it becomes a little bit easier. we can have general questions and then subsets of questions for each park.
Bernie, does that answer your question?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I have no idea what to expect. So I have faith that you're going to be able to pivot accordingly. I just want to reiterate that I'd love for us to do a better job this time around than we did last time around as far as communicating with all of the areas that would be affected.
That was really good.
John Dory, any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The center, it's interesting, they center around the same problem, and that is gathering information under this pandemic. And one of my questions is, how critical is it that we move forward now? Because things will change, I assume. That may take a little while. It may take a vaccine, but that seems to be coming. I really feel that the best way to get the information and to get buy-in from the community is with meetings where people can show up. And right now you're not going to get that, nor will the city allow it. And so we're left with plan B or plan C and hope that it works. And what I don't want to get to is after we go through this process, people are complaining because they didn't feel like they had adequate opportunities to have their own ideas processed through this process. So one of the questions I have is, I looked on page 70 and it's got term of the agreement and there's a lot of spaces there that need to be filled in. I'm not sure if I read through here and saw how quickly this was going to be done anyway. I don't think we have a whole lot of money in our coffers to go running around and building whatever we come up with quickly. We're going through a pandemic. I'm sure that it's affecting us financially. So I'm just trying to get some feel for the priority that we place on this to move forward now. Or is this something we move forward to in January of next year and we have better visibility on what's happening and then take it into next year and build and do this process? That's my concern, and those are my thoughts. How long will this take? I have two questions. One is, how long will it take once you get approval to go forward? That's one question. The other one is, do you think you'll get better information face-to-face with people, or do you think Plan B is just as good?
Let me, if I may break down your question, John, first to Samantha, the priority and the urgency to have this handled now as opposed to tabling this for 6 months.
So, you know, we wanted to actually be coming to council right now with a final plan. That was the original intent. We had looked at, so originally this was supposed to come to the commission in March, then it would go to council for approval for the contract in April, and then we would spend April, May, June, July working through public workshops, getting feedback, getting input. We would come back to the commission in August for a review. If there were revisions, we would come back again. But the goal was to land the final conceptual drawings in the fall of 2020. Obviously, that's not going to happen. We acknowledge that. You know, and to your point, John, yes, there's not a ton of money to start park development right now. You know, as many of you probably watched the budget process, a lot of our CIP projects have been put on hold, just in lieu of COVID, and in lieu of that uncertainty. So it absolutely, you know, to say we are going to be guaranteed any build out of anything that comes from this is a long shot. But you know, even in a non-COVID time, what gets put into the master plan doesn't guarantee that it's going to be built overnight. It still has to go through the right process and getting the funding and getting the approval. And, you know, by the looks of what the community wants, they're not inexpensive projects. they will cost a significant amount of money. So all of that has to be taken into account, and we would certainly then, once we have a plan, our goal would be to go look at the funding sources, whether it's through grant funding or partnerships with the Friends Foundation or different other nonprofits in town. That would be the next avenue that we would look at from a funding source. By no means, the city is not necessarily in a position to say, yes, we're going to fund all of these projects that come out of the master plan. That's never been our MO. We've always looked at nonprofits and partnerships to help build our parks and recreation. So that this would be no different. So for your question of, is it urgent? It's not urgent, but I know that it's something that the community really wants to see. We get regular requests about how we should, or when are we going to be talking next about the master plan, or when can we give input? All of those things come up regularly from the community. So does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, that answers the question from you. The other one was, does your company, does the company that's going to be doing this work actually feel that they can get the information that they need from the community as well through the meetings as they can through, let's say, online or email or Zoom or whatever way they're going to do it?
I'll leave that to Steve, but I will say, if we start this process and we feel like we're not reaching the amount that we should be reaching, the number of people, it would be at our discretion to say, hey, we need to do this a little bit better. Let's rework it. And I can't speak for SWA, but my conversations with them say that they want to follow this project through to the end. They want to see a successful execution. They want to see a happy community. That's the goal. So if it's a matter of, if these aren't enough workshops and we feel like we need more, if it's not within our contract limits with SWA, it can certainly be something that staff look at doing with the guidance from SWA, but maybe SWA is not on site. Those are possibilities. We want to be flexible in this because, as Commissioner Wolfarth stated, we want the community to be more involved than they have previously, and that's really important. And we're ready to mold and bend however we need to do that to make it happen.
John, you had one other question for Steve, and that was, assuming he got the green light today, setting aside the COVID issues, how long would it take for them to complete their work? Like, would they be done in a month or 2 months? Steve, can you address that?
Yes, in the proposal we put together on pages 50 and 51, there's a detailed schedule that essentially highlights a 23-week process. And I think that would remain the same depending on how the public outreach is done. There may be a slight delay due to, for instance, if we had paper mail, there's a little bit of a delay there, but I don't see a delay of more than a week or two. And I believe there was also a question about how we felt in terms of face-to-face meetings versus the digital meetings and their effectiveness. We have done several meetings and have experience doing public outreach via Zoom. We've done multiple meetings via internet. We've done meetings with mail-in and, or not meetings, but we've done mail-in and internet-based surveys for park programming that are very similar to what we're talking about here in person. That all said, nothing beats face-to-face. I mean, for me to sit up here and say that there's some magic computer program that does it would be lying. It does. Do we get most of the way there? 95% of the way there? Yeah, probably. But there's something to be said for in-person. We have talked about the possibility of a reservation-based in-person meeting. That's all dependent on public health orders and all of that. But the one thing we had talked about was holding meetings in one of the parks, and to go ahead and maybe have groups of 5 or 10 or whatever would be prudent at that time and engage the public that way through a reservation system. But there was a reason why we did in-person meetings for years and years and years, and I think we all know why.
Okay, so John Dory, are good on your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, John Banderick, any questions?
I think they've pretty much said everything I was looking at as far as the timeline and everything. And they're going to be taking one park at a time and then working through that and then doing another park, or is it all kind of at one all-inclusive mapping here that we're going to try to do? Everything at one time, or we're going to, kind of like in the past, we've talked about one park at a meeting and maybe a different park at another meeting. So just wanted to see how this, I guess it has to do with the timeline, and we can't do it the way we would like to do it.
Yeah, I think Steve had indicated that he intended a single public forum to address all 5 parks. And Steve, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. There's a deficiency with doing all 5 parks, both simultaneously in terms of the design, but also the public outreach.
And Chairman Strager, if I may add to that, the other component, while I know it sounds like it's a big undertaking to do 5 parks and just 2 public meetings, it circles back to our 2018 plan. We were really looking at our systems as a whole, and I think to evaluate each park individually almost doesn't allow for a full system to be complete. I know that each community or area of the community might have a different need, but if it comes out that there's one amenity that's really, really needed and necessary, and there's a want for it, but maybe it doesn't fit at one particular park, but it fits at another, that's the value in looking at all 5 together on a kind of a broader scale, so you can see what fits where, and again, to kind of make sure that everything gets included. That way we're not narrowing our scope too much by just looking at park to park to park.
Yeah. So Steve, if I may, a number of my questions have been addressed as well, but I wanted to bring you into the fold. Bernie and Charlie and John alluded to it, and Samantha did as well, but so many years ago, we did public forums with regard to dog access in the beaches. We had a lot of public input. We had attendance of 100 people or more at a meeting. We had similar attendance for pickleball at different meetings. And then in 2018, we did a master plan that was to cover all the beaches, parks, and recreation. And I don't think I overstate it when I say that the commissioners felt very much excluded from that process. And part of the exclusion was because the consultant that we retained, while they feigned interest in our opinions, when it came down to it, they didn't come to our commission meetings when we had a lot of questions. And they didn't make most of the changes we asked them to make in the document. They became wedded to their own word more than our opinion. So I noticed in your proposal that you're not going to be coming to any of our meetings, the commission meetings, the city council meetings, to field questions and to allay concerns that we might have with regard to the direction that you're going. I feel like your presence at a public workshop is probably less important than your presence at a meeting where we get to ask questions. So how amenable are you to coming to meetings and listening to our concerns and maybe integrating them?
Well, we'd be very interested. We're a collaborative design firm, not just internally collaborating with one another, but the best design comes with the most amount of knowledge coming into it. So we would be completely open to coming to meetings and fully intend to both present the work that we're working on and listening and taking that work, taking the knowledge you guys all have with the community and your past work experience and putting it into the plans. There are a lot of architects out there that are that have large egos, right? we all know it. They have a design that's in their mind's eye, and that's how it's going to be. We do everything we can not to be that person. This is a community park for the community, so we need to listen to the community.
So in short, even though the $49,000 doesn't include your attending commission meetings, if you were requested to come, you would do so, and if there was an extra fee for that, I guess you'd work that out with the department.
Yes, definitely.
Well, those are all the questions I have. Any commissioners have any additional questions now that we've rolled through one round?
I did have one more question, Chair Strager. Steve from SWA, quick question. I meant to mention it earlier. With the park concept plans you guys have put together in times past, have there been any skateboard elements in any of those designs?
Yes, there have been. Generally speaking, the history with the skateboard parks on our projects have been once their insurance companies get involved with the city and insuring those program elements, they've gone away in the past. But we're completely comfortable working with them, and they're very passionate about what they want. And we like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? So Samantha, I will say normally we do like to see all the other packets, but I tend to agree with you that these guys have the right price point, and being local is nice, and Steve was very forthright with his answer. So that is helpful. You understand the importance of the commission feeling heard and involved in the process, and how this was an issue for us in the past. I guess my only concern goes to John Dory's point, which is if we spend the money now for an analysis, are the fruits of that going to be less juicy, so to speak, than were we to do this 6 months or 8 months from now, when the public would come out more? Because John's right, that this public is really good about not saying much in the process, but saying a lot after it's done. And so I don't know if any other commissioners have a similar concern about marching forward under the world conditions that we have.
I think that it was said earlier that with the COVID and the tax base it is right now, which isn't coming in, the stuff isn't going to get done right away, and it'd be nice to have something down as future projects. Here's what we'd like to do, and I don't know how many years it's going to take to try to put it together, but I'm assuming it would take years, not just 1 or 2 years, to get everything down that we would like to have.
Samantha, one thing
I'll pick.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bernie.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bernie.
Go ahead.
I was just I'll piggyback on that, and just I think if we had 5 site-specific plans in front of us and ready to hire someone to break ground, I think I'd be more inclined to take a step back. But what we seem to be doing here is just choosing a company, and then council will decide when they start the process. I'm really okay with moving forward and choosing the company, because it doesn't seem like we're the ones who are telling them to pick up a shovel at this point.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? If not, the floor, go ahead, Charlie.
Oh, I was going to say real quick, Samantha, one way that we might skin this cat as far as getting public input would be to have the public forums, if you will, or workshops, whatever we title them as, have them live streamed, and then and then have some ability for people to be sort of emailing in or texting in their commentary and be addressing those questions as if they were sitting there in person, but we're just live streaming. That might be one way to kind of skin the cat here as far as public forums concerned. I was just thinking that. So
Yeah, that goes to, and people want to be engaged, not just by pen and paper or by email. They want that kind of immediate voice and interaction. So absolutely.
Okay, so with those comments, and there being no other matters of public comment, the floor is open. Should any commissioner wish to make a motion on this matter?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Beach Parks and Recreation Commission recommend that the City Council approve the selection of SWA to prepare a site-specific master plan updates for the 5 parks, Bonita Canyon, Linda Lane, Steed, San Gregorio, and San Luis Rey.
Okay, motion by Charlie. Is there a second?
I could second that one.
Okay, John Banderick has seconded Charlie's motion. All in favor? I'm sorry, any comment on the motion itself?
Yeah, I just have a comment on it. And that is, what is the opportunity? I understand, look, I have nothing against SW. I think they sound like a great group. My concern is, and it still is a concern, that we're rushing into something that doesn't need to be rushed into. And I hear what Bernie says, and I hear what Charlie says, and I think that this is a good group. I just don't think we're going to have all of the information that the community can offer through this process at this time. So part of me says, I don't have a problem moving this up approving SWA. My problem is, when do we start it? Is that something, Samantha, that we are determining, or is that something the City Council would return?
Well, the goal would be to start it as soon as possible, but I do understand that in light of COVID that changes things. It can be something that we put the brakes on and then get better council feedback on their intent to move it forward. I'm comfortable doing that if that's what the commission wants. I mean, you could make a motion to have council address that, or make the recommendation that the commission recommends it. Staff look at the timing. Those are all options. We're very flexible because, again, this is not an ideal time. It's unfortunate that we are where we are, because we're going to get a lot of momentum and a lot of steam moving, and I understand that this is a more difficult space to be in now.
So, John, to your question, Charlie, if you are moved by John's question, you can amend your motion to have a time period. For example, approve the selection of SWA to begin work January 2021. And that could be the motion that we send up to City Council. And they can decide for themselves when the start time would occur. This would be the time, I think, for us to input something like that if you want to amend your motion.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where John's coming from, and it makes a lot of sense. I'll play devil's advocate for 1 second here. I just think about, like, when we do actually come out of this, hopefully we have a decent amount of steam behind us to be getting this stuff going. So the members of the community can be enjoying the parks more, and that we're optimizing the parks as much as possible, especially since when I think we do come out of this, I think people are going to be a lot more outdoorsy than they have been in times past. But no, I mean, I fully appreciate and respect what John's saying. I'm open to an amendment. That's I think to Samantha's point earlier, we were supposed to have this basically done around now, and I think the big thing would be, and I don't know who mentioned it, maybe Samantha mentioned it, I think she did. She said, that we would hit the brakes if we felt like the public input was pretty weak. And I would definitely second that. If we felt like the public input was not sufficient for us to be gathering good information, and that we're right back at square one where we were with prior projects where we didn't have, or prior input where we didn't have sufficient community input, that will be problematic. So I'll go ahead and stop there.
Okay, John, if I may play devil's advocate as well, it occurs to me that in this time when everybody's home and bored, stuck, that we might actually generate a more favorable response to an outreach of, hey, what do you guys want to see in parks? I know, because you've been on this commission a long time. You've seen a lot of things where hardly anybody showed up, and we were surprised. and hardly anybody showed up. And sometimes it's in the summer and people are busy and they're doing things and they're preoccupied with life. And it seems to me like right now nobody's much preoccupied, and so maybe we generate a better response now to what they want. But to your point, I mean, the timing is important. I don't think we're going to have any control over it once it leaves us. And I think Steve is chomping at the bit to get going. It sounds like Samantha is as well. So, Charlie, it's your motion. If you want to amend it to put a time frame on there, it's your choice. Otherwise, we can vote on Charlie's motion, and then if it passes, then we go to the next step. So it's up to you, Charlie.
Well, if there, can I hear the amendment first, Steve?
John, do you want to propose an amendment?
Hey, if I may interject as it relates to timing, the other component, if you kick this off in January, you are going to miss the budget cycle for the following budget year. So we're back into a position where, had we finished this now, we could potentially be looking to incorporate some of these projects into our CIP list for the 21-22 fiscal year. If you don't get incorporated, so if you started in January, you're potentially looking at not being able to get any funding from the CIP program until potentially 22-23. So that just moves the ball down a little bit. And again, funding is absolutely up in the air, but if we want to put our projects out there, we have to get within the budget cycle, and budget kickoff usually begins, we start looking at that in February or March, so it's pretty early on at the staff level.
Actually, Samantha, I think that's a compelling point, because if we miss this opportunity financially, the way things are going, we may have a lot less money next year, and this thing gets swept under the carpet, and we need it for planning and what have you, but I think under ideal circumstances, I'd have trouble with this one, but why don't we go forward with the motion?
Yeah. Let's call for the vote.
Okay, Charlie's motion, which was seconded by John. No more discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 And for the record, it looks like all five have indicated aye. Any opposition? Okay, no abstentions. So that matter passes. Steve, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
And Steve, we hope that we hear from you a lot in the near future.
I hope so too.
Yeah, please keep us updated.
Will do.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5B on the agenda. That is the Aquatics Partnership application from San Clemente Water Polo. Is Carrie with us?
No, you have me tonight. So
that's fine.
This is, we are all familiar with our partnership process. So this is a renewal of the San Clemente Triton Water Polo Club partnership. They are currently a junior partner. They've been with us for a couple years now. I have Don Prusik on the phone or on Zoom with us as well if you guys have questions. They've been a partner. They are our only water polo partner that we have. We have two aquatics partners. The San Clemente Aquatics team is a senior and Water Polo Club is a junior. They are a junior based on the total number of members they have in their club. So they don't meet the threshold for the senior level, which is why they've applied for a junior partnership, and we are, staff are recommending the junior partnership be continued with them. Now, as a point of order, their partnership expired in 2019, November, so this would be, we're asking for a 2-year agreement that would take them through 2021, and it would actually align them then with all of the other partners. And I know that the commission and council had a desire to see everybody all at one time, so this kind of plays very well into that for next year. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I can say that the Water Polo Club is a tremendous partner. They pay their lane lines on time. They're very respectful of our rules and our policies, and I know staff enjoy working with them, and they do serve a really important niche of our community as well. So the other point I wanted to make, I know that there was a question regarding the 3 years of tax filings. It's not included in the packet. I know you guys are normally used to seeing that. What is included is a summary, a 5-year summary. doesn't go into detail necessarily as what you might get with 3 years of tax returns. They have attached their 2020 budget, which I think it does detail out kind of item by item. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. But again, Dawn is on the line and she can answer any kind of those more specific questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Sam. Commissioners, any questions for Sam or Dawn?
Sam,
Anybody?
with the cost, the subsidization estimate that we had there, is that so that's just I take that's just formulaic, and but we don't know, like, if San Clemente water polo weren't there, we don't know that we would have necessarily gotten those revenues, right?
Correct. So what you're seeing is what we basically subsidize in terms of their rentals. So it's not a hard cost for us. We're not shelling out money. It's a soft cost. It's on pool rentals. It's lane rentals. And if they weren't in the pool, then pool space is premium and somebody else would be in it. But it's very likely that it would be a lap swimmer that is between $2 to $4 if they're a resident. So a pretty inexpensive rental, if you will. Or it would be the swim team that might have the lane, which again, they also get a discount on their lane rentals, or it could be a class. So at the end of the day, it is a formula, and it's hard to say if they weren't using those lanes what we could be making, because most likely, just knowing that the patterns of our pool usage, it would be a lap swimmer or another partner or a class. So we would not be, I feel pretty confident to say we wouldn't be renting these lanes at the full $25 an hour that they cost. I don't see that happening. So
Yeah. And I guess maybe a question for you, Dawn, just a couple quick questions. Your guys' profit for the budget for 2020, where does that profit go?
Our profit basically goes to pay our coaches, to have equipment. We sometimes like to have a little bit of money left over, which doesn't always happen, honestly. We pay for tournaments. It all goes back into the program.
Okay, cool. What was the profit for 2019 and 2018? Do you have those figures?
I don't have those in front of me. I could go grab them if you like. I know I had submitted them to Carrie and I didn't realize they weren't attached.
Okay.
But it's usually roughly about $15,000 a year.
Got it. You just dump that right back into the program?
Yeah.
Okay, and the budget, just the revenue for the budget, or the income, that's the totality of the income projections. There's no other income?
No, it's all membership dues, tournament entries,
Gotcha.
that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Of course.
Hey, anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. You're going to be, it says that your season is September to July, from what I could read.
Yes.
And unfortunately, September is, all the high school shut down for their sports. College football is gone for the year. All these sports are kind of hanging out there. I think they kind of put them on the back burner through at least January, and then they'll look at it again. Are you in the same boat as far as that's concerned? Are you looking at this year? And I'm not looking for fault here. I'm just curious about the process because, quite frankly, I love what you guys do. But I'm just curious to see what kind of hardships you are running into this year that you haven't experienced before.
Well, we have been closed down since everything got closed down in mid-March. We haven't been able to practice, obviously. We haven't gone to tournaments. Our big, end of season tournament, which is usually Junior Olympics, that happens at the end of July, which is why our season ends in July. We typically take August off. And then all the kids that are aging up, they age up in September. It's a USA water polo age thing. It's a little hard to describe, but so we have not basically had any income since mid-March. We haven't been able to see our kids. We haven't had coaches. We did get in the city pool for a couple weeks. It was kind of a rough start. We had some 10 and 12-year-olds who were having some problems with the social distancing, quite honestly. So we've kind of pulled back because we don't want to ruin our partnership with you guys. But yeah, we're basically closed down until, until.
Yeah, I would imagine that the Parks Department will, look at next year's numbers and understand what happened this year when they look at how many people played and all the rest of it, because it's just a unique time. But you have a great history. I just wanted to point that out. I have no other questions.
Thank you, John.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, then the floor is open for anyone who wishes to make a motion on this matter. Is anybody so inclined?
I'll make a motion that the Beaches Parks and Rec Commission recommend the City Council grant junior partnership status to the San Clemente Water Polo Club with a 2-year agreement.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, Charlie has seconded. It is John's motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So based on my count, that looks like 5-0. John Vandrick, you're in affirmation?
Yeah, no, yes.
Just want to make sure I heard you good. Okay.
Never mind.
Okay, Dawn, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Okay, item 5C on the agenda, resolution amending the regular meeting dates. So just to be clear, for those of you that don't know, City Council has already decided we are only going to be meeting every other month. That is already done. We're not being asked to decide that, even though it may look like that from the resolution. All we're being asked to do is to commit to the even months versus odd months, and to commit to location and commit to our start time of 6 p.m., which I personally think has worked really well since moving from 7 p.m. Samantha, is there anything more you want to add to this matter?
Just in looking at it from a staff perspective, the preference would be that the commission meet on even months. That then I pay particular focus to the beginning of the year. That January meeting rarely happens, and it's a really tough time of the year. From a staff perspective, the city's closed for a week leading up to that. So there's just some difficult spots that we get in that January month. So the preference would be an even kind of cycle. But again, if the commission wants something different, that's fine. Staff agrees 6 p.m. seems to work very well. No issues with that either. So.
Anybody have any comments or concerns?
I only have
Oh, go ahead, John.
No, my only comment was, how long are we going to be in this situation? Because I didn't see anything in here unless I missed it, and I may have. There's a lot of material. That even though it gives us, you're in the position for 2 years and blah, blah, blah. But a lot of us have been in this for a while, and it's been a while since they've approved us. And is there a timeline on this going forward? Is this something that next year, this year, they're going to tap us on the shoulder and say, you've been here too long, John, it's time to move on. And we'll have to have you, is it next June they're going to look at this again? Look at us as a group that's already here? I didn't see
First
it.
of all,
John, we're
John,
waiting for a vaccine.
yeah.
For you.
You'll never be here too long, John. Don't worry.
I thought they said they were going to do interviews in January or something after the election.
So they will do them. You're basically going to run through this fiscal year. So you'll go through June, to your point, and they'll do May. Interviews are usually like May or June, somewhere around there. And then they'll start off kind of a clean slate. They will look for they'll look to fill 5 commissioner seats at that point in time.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to hear it. So.
Samantha, I certainly don't want to overcomplicate this, and I get the point that going dark for 2 months is, or what would it be? Yeah, 2 months would probably be a long time. But just a suggestion: would it make sense to consider having the December meeting in November?
Well, I should say the commission always has the discretion to hold a special meeting. So, and the chairman can always call that meeting. And we've been in that situation where, hey, this is a really important item. It needs to be moved up. And if I had a crystal ball, I would surmise that with a master plan on the horizon, we see that the commission is certainly going to be leaned on in that process. And if we can't get business done every other month and we need to see the commission convene frequently, whether that's in between or not, that's a possibility that the resolution does allow for that.
And just to make sure I'm clear with your response, I was just suggesting that we don't have the December meeting, that we move that December meeting to November instead. I get the special meeting point.
Yeah, I don't know if we could do that. We might have to call the special meeting for November and then post a notice of adjournment for the December one. I don't know if we would be allowed to, based on what council's recommending as bi-monthly. I think we have to be systematic and kind of in that pattern of we're meeting on the even months, except when we don't because we adjourn to a special meeting or whatever it may be.
Got it. I don't want to create headaches, so I was just asking.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, Charlie.
It is.
We can't. Yeah, they for continuity's sake and for the public to have advance notice, they wanted us to have this pattern. To Samantha's point, technically we're allowed to have special meetings. It's not mentioned in the resolution, in our resolution or in the ordinance that was adopted, despite my request that it be included in there. The difficulty, of course, is you also saw that the city council decided we can't have meetings longer than 3 hours. Right. So when you think about 6 a year at 3 hours a pop, that's 18 hours. We will spend easily that on the master plans. Yeah. So I think it's highly likely that we're going to have special meetings. And we'll just deal with them as they come up.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns about the resolution? All right. Well, then, let's see here. I guess it's not a vote matter. It's whether or not we're going to adopt the resolution. So is there any objection to the chairman adopting the resolution? Bernie?
No.
Nope. John? Nope. Charlie?
No objection.
No objection.
Okay. John Bannock, no objection. Okay,
Nope.
so it being unanimous that the chairperson will adopt the resolution, and so it is therefore adopted that we will meet on the second Tuesday of even numbered months, February, April, June, August, October, December at 6 o'clock at our usual meeting place, the City Council chambers. Okay, that matter is complete. Anything further on that, Sam?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay. All right, moving on to 5D, development of a work plan for fiscal year. This is something new. When the City Council decided they wanted to take a look at the commissions and the committees, they wanted something in writing confirming that we were doing stuff. And even though we are by far the busiest, maybe not planning's pretty busy, but we're pretty busy too. So they want us to put together this work plan. I know what you're all thinking. Normally we have no idea what's coming at us until we get the agenda. So it's hard to know in advance, but Samantha's going to take the laboring oar on filling out the form for us. Is that correct?
Yes, I will do that.
And thankfully, with our vote tonight, we do have something on there, right?
There you
and
go.
We have master plan.
Paying you more.
Yeah, so Samantha, do you want to talk about anything else to add to the list, or are you just going to figure it out?
So I brainstormed a little bit for you guys. I didn't want to steal the thunder, but I thought I'd maybe give you some tidbits to consider. One of them obviously is the site-specific plan. That is probably your largest work plan item, and if nothing else gets accomplished, that alone is a huge feat and a really good accomplishment. But some of the other things that have come up, and I'll speak a little bit on it in our oral communications kind of staff update. In light of COVID, we've seen a lot of different things come to light from a policies and a procedure standpoint within BPR. One of them is the reservation of our pickleball courts, our tennis courts, lanes at the aquatic center, court surfaces in general. And we've seen that the public really likes these reservation options. They like to be able to say, I know I have a tennis court at San Luis Rey at 10 a.m. because I reserved it. And we've gotten good feedback on that. And we're not charging right now. So one of the things that I had thought that might be an option for the commission is to look at if we should continue a reservation system. Is that something that is worthy and the community would respond well to? And then obviously with that, what are the elements that go into that reservation? Are we reserving all of them? I mean, as you can imagine, there's a lot of facets that we could go down. And we have a lot of courts, whether it's volleyball and basketball and tennis, pickleball, all of those things. That was one option. And the other item that came up, and this has been something that I know on a staff level we've wanted to do for quite some time, is a fee study. The last time the commission reviewed fees, I want to say was in 2015, maybe 2014. So we know that our fees need to be updated, and we definitely rely on commission feedback on that as well. Again, staff really will do the footwork on it, and then we would have that kind of open dialogue with the commission to get guidance and better recommendations from there. So those are really kind of the three big rocks, if you will, that we're looking at for this coming year. And those are big undertakings in and of themselves. But some of the other items that we've considered, just to throw it all out there for transparency, you know, and this goes to the public comment on item 3B, that is there a need to have a permitting process in place for somebody who doesn't want to become a contract instructor with the city and they just want to run their commercial business in the park? Is there a need for that? That also came up as kind of something to play around with. Again, we look at what other cities are doing, and we know that is what other agencies are doing. Huntington, Newport, they all have those options in place. And then the last kind of thing, and I'm sorry, this is a ton of information, but so you know where my head is, and maybe if you just trust me, I will lead the way on it. The other thing I wanted to circle back on is our partnership process. As we just reviewed a partnership tonight, this commission knows very well that they can be a little bit intense with the documents that are required and all those things. And there's certainly different ways to do it. The San Clemente way is not the only way. So that might be an option as well. There's some cities do a youth sports subcommittee. That's kind of an offshoot of the commission. And it involves commissioners and also youth sports stakeholders. So there's different different ways to do that. So that's where I'm at on the staff perspective of what we think are really priorities for the department. And obviously that reflects on the commission as well. So it's a lot, and I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Samantha, when do they want our work plan?
They want it. They're requesting it to go to the first meeting in October to council. So if the commission wants to see something ahead of that, we could certainly hold a special meeting, or we can bring it back in September as well. Kind of a draft model, if you want.
Yeah, because we don't currently have a meeting for September. So
right.
Our next meeting is after the work plan would be submitted.
Can you just email a draft and we'll send back comments?
Not to everybody. If you want to submit comments, and I'll say the golf committee is doing something very similar to this. They're submitting comments to Miley because she's kind of the neutral party. Miley's compiling all of that, and then we're going to go back and hold a special meeting for the golf committee where we say these are all the comments from the commissioners that are or the committee members that are a priority, and we're going to go from there. So that's one option. You can hold a special meeting if you'd like.
Well, guess we sort of need to decide that now. What do you guys want to do on this?
The only thing that seems to make sense, unless I'm missing something, is to have this special meeting to vote on it, correct? Before we submit it to council, correct? Before the October 1st meeting.
Yeah, or we
the
just
October 1st deadline.
yeah, I don't know that we could effectively delegate the whole thing to Samantha, especially
Yeah.
because I guess City Council wants the chairperson to appear for that meeting to support their work plan. Did I read that correctly, Samantha? So I guess it would be hard for me to, although I like everything you said, I guess we probably should have a meeting. So anybody feel differently about that?
I agree with you. I think it's something, even if we spend 20 minutes on it and agree with everything that Samantha puts down, I think it's important to get together on this. I wrote down about 10 different things, but Samantha might go, well, that's not our, we don't do that, so to speak, and I need that kind of feedback. And maybe some of them might want to end up in the draft. So, but I think we all have a few things that we've seen around in our days on the commission that would probably like to have at least input from Samantha on as to, is this a good idea and why not? To see what else we might be able to put into it, because it's really a brainstorming session as far as I'm concerned as to what goes on and goes into this document. So
Okay, so
if we want to have a meeting, I would say, yeah, let's do it.
okay, so Samantha, do you envision having anything else you'd like us to tackle where we could have a special meeting, and that would be on September 8th, right after Labor Day?
I don't think so, but I'd have to look at it. As you imagine, things have gone a little dark right now. We're just kind of trying to get through our current operating status, so there's not a whole lot of focus on anything else.
We do it on the 22nd, which is not the second Tuesday, but the fourth Tuesday, and that would give you time to get other items on the agenda if need be, but also time for everyone to marinate on this. I'm just concerned about right after Labor Day. If that's too soon for you guys to put together your agenda and all that stuff.
I would be fine with that. I think holding it on the 22nd, if there's other items, then that would be fine. It's likely we might not then have an October meeting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we can play that by ear.
Okay, anybody have any thoughts on that?
I have something on the calendar for the 22nd. I can see if I can move it, but I am doubtful that I can move.
Well, I don't mind leaving it to the 8th, as long as you guys want to just leave that. That's when it would normally be if we were going every month. So Bernie's good with the 8th. John Dory, you're good with the 8th?
I'm fine with the 8th.
John Bandrick?
Good with the 8th.
Charlie?
Yep, it's good.
Okay, so that's already on our calendar for being a meeting night, but for the change.
Thanks, Steve.
Of
I
course.
appreciate that.
So, so when we get to the adjournment, then we're going to adjourn to a special meeting on September 8th at 6 p.m. Here in the same location. And I guess as of now, the only agenda item will be our work plan, which means it should be quicker than 90 minutes.
So one question on that, Steve. Do we want to be, and I guess Samantha also, do we want to be submitting things to you beforehand and then having you dump that into the document so then we basically have the document together? Or to John's point, is it going to be more of a brainstorming session? I just want to make sure I understand.
I think you want to have your brainstorming kind of done, and then what this commission would probably want to do is say, yes, these are the items that we want to push forward to the city council with Steve's kind of guidance and leadership, taking it to them.
Yeah, if I may, I think it would be better for people to email to Miley, and only to Miley, not to everybody. Email to Miley. She will compile a list. That list will be part of the agenda report that will come out to us. So, days in advance, you can start looking through and deciding what you like and what you don't like. my concern with doing it ad hoc in the moment is that we're going to have to vote on each line item. And as you hear, John Dory already has 10. So this might be a long meeting if we go item by item. So yes, send it into Miley, and then she'll compile a list, and then if need be, Samantha and Miley call me in advance to discuss the agenda, and then we'll figure out how manageable the list is. Okay, so then it seems like we're in agreement that item 5D is going to be tabled for the next meeting. Anybody have any objection on that matter? Nope. Okay, so item 5D will be tabled to the next meeting, which will be specially set for September 8th. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so item 6 on the agenda, public input. We've already acknowledged public input. Miley, do you have anything new since the meeting has been underway?
Don't have anything new. Would you like the comments that pertain to park amenities? There are 3.
Was that submitted under item 5?
Yes.
So I think, Samantha, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to save those comments for when we get to that portion of the master plan discussion. No sound.
Sorry. I don't know if you can save them. I mean, they specifically asked for them to be read attached to this comment. Well, I think the goal with the commission can just listen and hear it, and we can file it, and then I will reach out to those individuals and remind them that there'll be a better venue for them to express those same comments. I think you have to hear them though.
Well, okay. Let's just start reading them.
It's only 3, so, and I think they're fairly short.
Okay. Miley, the floor is yours for a while.
Okay. Hello, San Clemente City Council and Parks and Recreation Department. My name is Jane Nicholson, and I'm proposing an option of building a BMX pump track in our lovely city by the sea. I'm a lifelong resident of San Clemente and moved here in the mid-'80s and think this would suit our community beautifully. I used to ride BMX back in the day and just got back into it with my son who loves riding. We've been to a few pump tracks in the cities of Leonora, Temecula, and San Diego, and I've also spoken with the builders of the San Diego and Temecula tracks. These pump tracks let adults and kids express themselves, get great exercise, great learning tool, make friends, and tone their skills, plus enjoy the outdoors. These tracks allow year-round fun for families and can be used by skateboards, scooters, balance bikes, mountain bikes, and BMX bikes. I think it would be an awesome add to our city. San Clemente has a huge biking community, and the responses that I've received from the people in our town is incredible. I really want to see this come to fruition for our community, and I know the kids would love it. A few sites that I had suggested for the pump track was Richard T. Steed Park on the backside of the skate park, Vista Hermosa Sports Park, and Parks and Recreation mentions San Gorgonio Park. Sincerely, Jay Nicholson. Next comment. Good afternoon. I'm Marty Weinberg. I'm a local resident, and I'm the USA Pickleball Ambassador for the City of San Clemente. The pickleball community is hopeful that a consultant contract will be awarded this evening to begin the process and the preparation of the site for Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The pickleball community is looking forward to working with the city and the consulting firm during the future roundtable and workshop phase to discuss present and future pickleball programs and facilities. Pickleball remains the fastest growing sport in the United States and the fastest growing sport in San Clemente as well. Due to our overcrowded courts at San Gorgonio Park and the overwhelming interest that we have been witnessing during the past couple of years, the pickleball community would like to have a voice in the site-specific master plan process. The goal is for the city to establish a more permanent pickleball courts and amenities to where our community can enjoy the fresh air, the fun, the friendships, and the necessary exercise playing pickleball in the comfort of our city. Thank you. And last comment. Dear Parks and Recreation Commission, For the upcoming August 11th meeting, please hear the voice of the people and include plans for an additional skate park in San Clemente. Hands down, the city park has the most consistent use all year round is the Ralph Skate Park. An additional skate park would be very appropriate at any of these locations: Benito Canyon Park, Linda Lane Park, Richard T. Steed Memorial Park as an expansion, San Gorgonio Park, and San Luis Rey Park. Thank you, Nathan Harris.
Okay, thank you, Miley. We lost video on Sam and Bernie. Oh, no, Sam's back. Okay, Bernie is coming back as well. Okay, so that's it for public input for item 7 on the agenda, communications. Sam, anything more?
If you'd like, I don't have public input. Do you want to go to communications?
We just did public input.
Okay. Just a couple of updates for the commission as it relates to COVID, so the commission's kind of in the loop where we're at. We started in March and closed everything very unfortunately, and all of our parks were closed. Everything was closed, and coming out of that, most things are reopened now, including our aquatic center. All of our parks are closed. We just recently reopened all of our youth sports activities. The governor in the state authorized youth sports to return last week. That was probably our last kind of hurdle to get through. As you all know, we have a really vast amount of talented young athletes, and those organizations have a huge desire to get out on the field. So not allowing them for an extended period of time was frustrating for many. So the good news is we're through that, and we've come up with a process that gets them back out on the fields again. So the commission's in the know of where we're at. What that looks like is any application that we receive to use a field, they have to submit a COVID kind of return to play document to staff, and we review it. Our risk manager reviews it. We make sure it checks all the boxes as it relates to any California Health Department requirements or county health department requirements. And then there's a coach's acknowledgement form that gets signed. The organization signs our form. So it is a very thorough process, and that is really to make sure that all of our players and our coaches and our teams stay safe, including our staff. And our goal is to really only allow activities out there that have a permit. And we have seen an astronomical increase in the number of users at our parks, on our trails, at our facilities, at our beaches. We've seen it just catapult. The numbers that we're seeing are beyond what we could have imagined. And in fact, as it relates to, unfortunately, we're not doing any park permits, but we know people are out in our parks. One of the things that the recreation staff quickly implemented was virtual recreation. So we've got our virtual rec up and running. We're still live with that today. I've got a team of staff that do a weekly different kind of rotating theme, and there's crafts involved, there's activities, there's an opportunity to bake or cook something, there's competitions, and those are meant to give parents an opportunity to take a break from having to think of something to do, and all they have to do is go to our website and they get that immediate kind of fun thing to do for the week following. The other thing we've seen is a lot of our contract instructors stepped up very quickly and implemented Zoom classes. We've done yoga, we've done Tai Chi, we've done dance. There's a lot of options out there, and we're seeing really incredible numbers. I give a big kudos to my programming team. They've done online team cooking classes. We've seen people all over the world come and be involved in our classes virtually, which I think is phenomenal. And we're seeing better numbers actually to some extent in some of our classes than we do even in a regular out in the field type of opportunity. So one of the things we've gleaned from COVID is that virtual recreation is here to stay. It will become definitely a fabric of what we do on a day-to-day basis for programming, alongside anything that we offer, camp-wise. And we are offering camps; those are all happening. The California Department of Health has authorized day camps, and we've had that up and running, including surf camps and a bodyboarding camp, our Active Adventures day camp, cooking camp, and they have all been sold out across the board. Unfortunately, we're limited on how many kids we can have in each camp based on those guidance. So, we could be making a lot more revenue and serving a lot more kids if we had the capability to serve more, but we don't. We're just limited. We've got camps that they only have 20. That's all we're allowed to do. And we've got 25 or 30 on the wait list. So we know there's a need. And with that, we're also looking forward to the fall with schools being online. Our department is looking to come alongside CUSD and any other local schools that need support in terms of physical education. Physical education is allowable based on the youth sports guidance. And so you're going to see us try to roll out some type of PE camp format. We did a survey of our community, and we got a really good response back that said parents do want help a couple times a week to get their kids out and running, because that is so vital. We know that. So we're gonna roll out some fun PE recess style programming that has kind of a camp feel to it, but not that 5-day-a-week option. So we're still playing through all of that, and I recommend and I do hope to hear from commissioners if you guys have input or guidance, or if you have community members that you're connected to that want to throw their ideas our way. That is what we're here to do. We are here to be an open ear, and we are here to serve our community. So that's what we're looking to do as we move forward, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability in the box that we've been put in. The goal is to not shut anything else down. We only want to see things reopen. The Aquatic Center is up and running, so is the Beach Club. We are on lane reservations only, and I'm sure, I don't know if Commissioner Vanderick's been there, but I hope he likes our system. It is lane, you have to reserve your lane ahead of time, and there's kind of increments. It's very similar to the tennis court and pickleball system, and we're seeing 85 to 90% of our pool is booked all day long. Which again is pretty remarkable numbers. We have the swim team back in, and then coming up in the fall, we're looking to get some of our stroke and conditioning classes with KISS or Kane, and we're also going to get some of our parent-taught swim classes back as well. So we're trying to do things methodically and thoughtfully. We don't want to be irresponsible in how we roll things back out. We have the public's health and our employees' health always at the front of our mind before we do anything. So that's where we're kind of at with COVID as it relates to where, our parks and our facilities. You all probably saw that it was BPR that was heavily impacted by closing facilities down and having to really take a different approach. So I'm happy to answer questions on any of that if there is anything.
Yes, I've been up to the pool 5-6 days a week, and the reservation system seems to go really, really well most of the time. I do think that some people are taking advantage if they have a year pass by signing up for lanes and not showing up. Because I know I get up there sometimes and, 3 or 4 lanes are empty, and I know that I've looked and there weren't any lanes available. So.
Yeah, we've seen that. Unfortunately, that happens. I mean, even with our tennis courts and our pickleball courts that we're not charging a fee for, but the pass holders, they're not paying out of pocket right then and there. They have their pass. We know that. One of the, I think, it's good and bad, it's a little bittersweet, is that we have these reservation systems in place, but we also don't have policies that necessarily support them. We don't have a process. We don't have a cancellation fee or some type of, no-show fee. Right. We don't have any of that. But again, this kind of circles back to the work plan for the commission. Is if this is something, reservations of our facilities is of interest, then that would be the time then we'd look at policies and how we implement and roll this out as a whole. But I do hear what you're saying, John. I know we're tracking that. And unfortunately, it does seem to be a lot of pass holders that seem to do that. So. Okay.
With everything out post the COVID time or post the COVID sort of drop, Sam, has everything recovered and then some? Given the fact that people are home a lot, is that what you're kind of saying, like revenue wise and stuff?
We're certainly not recovered. We've canceled all of our special events, and those, we do From a special event permit, we were on track to do about 82 this year, and we usually do 65. So 2020 was going to be a really big year for us in the event permitting side, and that just fell completely flat. Unfortunately, we had a ton of organizations, including the Friends, that had to make really tough decisions to cancel staple events. So we are seeing those hits. Our park rentals, we're not doing them, so we're not collecting the revenue. Same thing with our field rentals. Now that our sports are back up and running, we're going to start to see that revenue stream come back in. But it was definitely dark for several months where we weren't renting any fields. I did say, our class revenue is doing pretty well. If we could allow more in our classes, we probably could get back to a point of where we should be. But we're playing it by ear. I'm hopeful, again, maybe after the new year that people will come back. We've seen that people are ready and willing to sign up. They want to participate. We just don't have the avenues to do that right now. So hopefully January can turn it around for us. But that's kind of where we're at, and we're getting creative with how we can continue to offer classes in different ways as well.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So, John Dory, Ad Hoc Water Quality Committee.
Yeah, sometime in the first of the year, we the commission the committee that was formed passed a $77,874 approval to go to city council. I think it was last city council meeting. Maybe Samantha, you can confirm that, but I believe they passed it, and so that adds to the $175,000 that's already been spent down at the pier trying to figure out where the bacteria is coming from. And hopefully with that extra money, it gets it up to almost $250,000 chasing down bacteria. But I think that's through the city council now back into the hands of the consultant.
Okay, great. Anything further on the Water Quality Committee?
We're done as far as I know. Our whole job was just to make sure that it got to that point. If they find something that is something else or need more money, or have to come to some conclusions, which we have not received, then we'll meet again, I'm sure. But I mean, they just approved the $77,000 just a couple of weeks ago, so it'll be another 3 or 4 months probably before we meet again.
Thank you, John. Okay, items from commissioners. John, Friends?
Yeah, the Friends have fallen on tough times here, as well as the city. And we had to close down our Wall of Fame this year in May. We'll have the same people who will come back next year. The golf tournament was canceled in June on the 18th, I believe. So all that income, which is considerable, about over $20,000 comes in from that, did not come in. We had to cancel the carnival, which is in October. That's another $30,000. So those in themselves put quite a crimp in us, in our financial opportunities with the city. The skate contest, I haven't heard from Samantha. Maybe she can make a comment, but the last I heard, it had been moved to maybe April sometime. We're not going to have it this year, so that will not pop up on our calendar for a 2020 opportunity. It'll probably come up next year in the spring, and so we really haven't been offering much money to the city this year. We've worked with Samantha on certain programs that we promised we would support, which were the scholarships. And if she needs money, she knows where she can find it. We'll dig deep into our reserves for that. But most of the other things were canceled anyway that we normally put money into or have been drawn way back. So we're just working with the city right now, trying to do the best we can this year, and hopefully next year we can hit it hard.
That's too bad. Thank you, John. Courtney's, John Banner?
Nothing for Courtney's. Would like to say that Peer Pride, which I'm also on, has donated, what is it, $50,000 to help revitalize the restroom out in the middle of the pier, and the work seems to be going along real well. I don't think it's completed yet, but soon, I hope. It's going along. And then
Thank you.
Public Safety Task Force, just wear a mask. Yeah, I don't know. Do we have a Public Safety Task Force?
I think that's done now. They've actually formed a committee, so we'll remove that from the agenda at this point.
Oh, good. There we
You're
go.
relieved of your duties.
Yay.
Thank you, John. I know that was time consuming for him. Okay, so Samantha, do you want to add Peer Pride as an item from Commissioner?
Yeah, we'll do that instead of the Public Safety Task Force. They are a partner, and it's in their agreement that they'll have a commissioner appointed, so we'll add it.
Okay. All right, so then if we are done, then I shall adjourn to the special meeting September 8th at 6 p.m. In this same location, which I guess will probably be Zoom. And if that is it, we are adjourned.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.